Hello, and welcome to the Third Thursday thing. We're in our 25th year, so during this year we will be celebrating a 25th anniversary. We're glad to have you here for the Organic Day today. Dr. Sean Lucas and company have put together an excellent program. I think you will benefit quite a bit if you're an organic producer or if you plan to be an organic producer. Plus, whether you raise organic or not, it's excellent to know about it. Thank you for your participation, and we'll be starting in just a minute.
Hi, I'd like to welcome everybody to Third Thursday here at Kentucky State. It's actually been about 2 years since I've done one of these. The last one that my organic group put together was before this pandemic wildness. So it's great to be back in person with everybody. Since I'm up here, I'll take the mask off. I'm away from everybody. But yes, we have a great agenda put together today. I'm excited about it. We've got a lot of folks from here in Kentucky going to talk about organic issues, organic certification, diversity in organic. And so we're really excited about the program that we've put together. And we're glad that you could all be here with us today in this rainy and windy day. So, the first person I'd like to bring up to talk about some of the programming that we have going on here at Kentucky State University is Miss Joni Nelson, and she's going to share a little bit with you about our Small Farm Grant Program. Thank you, Joni.
Thank you very much. Like you said, my name is Joni Nelson. I manage the Center for Sustainability of Farms and Families. We have the Small Scale Farm Grant, but we also do a lot of trainings, and we have several trainings on the agenda coming up. We're hosting the PSA Grower Training on March 24th. That's a free training for our stakeholders here. We're going to be doing it here at the farm. And we're also holding a Better Processing Control School. That one is $350. And it is going to be hosted here in April here at the farm. And we're doing a HACCP training also in May here at the farm. If you need more information, you can contact me, or I also, for those that are here, I have flyers out on the table. Now, the Small Scale Farm Grant has several different categories. One of the first ones I'm going to tell you about is the farmer education. The farmer education application is up to $500, and those trainings that I just mentioned, you can actually apply for those, for the grant to be able to get those paid for up to $500. The next deadline for the applications are April 1st, and we also have aquaculture, organic, value-added processing, and agroforestry. Those you can get up to $5,000 in each one of those categories. And that's basically for special use equipment, some production related. It just depends on what category you fit in. If you're interested in those, please contact me. That's up to $5,000 at a time, $10,000 lifetime max. You actually have to be a farmer between $1,000 and $250,000. This is not for startup. But it can help you get some of that special used equipment, especially if you're in organic. You can get attachments and things like that for your tillers. You can get some irrigation supplies in some cases. So if anybody's interested in that, please contact me or come see me after the program. Thank you.
Thanks, Joni. And the next speaker I'm going to introduce is me. I'm going to give a highlight about the organic program here at Kentucky State and some of the things that we're doing. And so if you're just coming in a little bit late and you weren't here for the welcome, I am Sean Lucas. I run the Organic Agriculture Research and Extension program here at Kentucky State University. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the things that we've been focusing on here at Kentucky State as far as our research and extension efforts. To give us a second here to get our presentation queued up. Oh, I have the clicker. See, I'm too much time behind a desk or in the field. Okay, so I'll give you guys a little bit of an overview about what we do in the organic program. You can see here our picture on the front slide here is some of our goats in our integrated crop livestock experiment, which I will fill you all in on here in a little bit. I am blessed here in the organic program. I like to wander. I don't like to stand behind a podium, but I guess I'm going to stay here for a second. Someone needs to put a leash on me and attach me to the podium because my tendency is to wander in front of a classroom or in front of an audience. Anyway, I am Sean Lucas. I run the organic research program. I'm assistant professor here at Kentucky State University. I've been here about 5.5 years coordinating this program. I'm very blessed. I, over the years, have had many excellent people working for me, some of whom are going to speak later, some of whom are in the audience. My current team consists of Blake Van Sanford. He is a research and extension assistant. Kimberly Barmore is a research and extension assistant. Nat Colton, over here at the table to my left, is a graduate student in the Master of Environmental Studies program, and he is also a farm technician here at the KSU Research Farm. And I have 2 graduate students who are really excited to be part of the program and really learning about soil health and environmental quality. Michael Adeniji is one of my graduate students. He is working on a collaborative project that we have going on with University of Kentucky where we're looking at industrial hemp and the ecosystem services delivered by industrial hemp in crop rotations. This is actually not an organic experiment. It's a more conventional experiment, so it's not on our organic land. But Michael is looking at soil health and environmental quality with us. Manoj Paudel, it just started this fall, or this spring rather, and he is another graduate student in the environmental studies program, and he will be focusing on soil health in an integrated crop livestock rotation. Just a little background, if you've been to Third Thursday before or have heard about our organic program, we are blessed to have this facility here. We have 300 acres on this farm. 16 of them are certified organic, and that is allows us to do research in a certified organic system. 14 acres have been certified since 2007, and if you look at the map here, those are the acres in green. They have been certified organic since 2007, and more recently in 2019, we brought 2 more acres in. That's what you're looking at with the yellow border on this map. We also have a high tunnel complex over by the main campus. If you've ever been on the south side of the main KSU campus, we have 4 high tunnels. Tony Silvernail just came in. He's helped build those high tunnels, 4 replicated high tunnels. They're about 96 feet long by 30 feet wide. And we do some organic agriculture research and outreach in those tunnels too. We're actually replacing the plastic on them right now, so we've got 2 to go. And as far as replacing plastic, and hopefully the weather will cooperate with us. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about our integrated crop livestock experiment. This is an old practice. People used to do this more commonly. It's becoming popular again because people are recognizing the benefits that you get in an integrated crop livestock rotation. This is where you have animals and your crops all working through the same piece of land. It benefits biodiversity. It's product diversity for the producer, right? You don't have all your eggs in just crops or livestock. You have different product outputs that you can reach the marketplace with. And for me, as a soil scientist, the thing that I'm really interested in is soil health, building soil organic matter. facilitating nutrient cycling, enhancing soil structure, infiltration rates, right? On a day like today when we're getting lots of rain, you want more water soaking into that soil rather than running off. And so we know that when you build your organic matter, this facilitates that. And of course, water holding for your crops is also another benefit of these systems. So we have been looking into these systems here at Kentucky State. There's a lot of research that has been done in integrated systems using cattle. We're blessed here at Kentucky State. Dr. Andrews has a goat herd, and he is kind enough to share some of his goats with us. And so we're looking into small ruminants in an organic system and looking into some of the effects that you might see. Do we see as dramatic effects with small ruminants as you see with cattle? So we're trying to investigate some of these things. And again, this is all, nature's processes, the ecosystem kind of working in concert with itself. Nutrient cycling, following, livestock production. Your crops can take advantage of that. You leave crop residues behind. The livestock can eat that, and the cycle continues onwards, right, with these benefits that we were talking about. So we're looking at goats in this system, and we're looking at soil quality impacts, including different carbon parameters. Carbon is one of the ways that we estimate soil quality and soil health. So we're looking at total carbon and labile carbon, which is more microbially accessible carbon. Why is that important? That's the carbon that's being used as we break down organic materials and release nutrients into the soil. So it's all part of that nutrient cycling balance. We're looking at aggregation, and we're actually looking at the soil microbial community. I'm really excited because we have not had a lab facility in the organic program up until last year. Our lab facility was being renovated, and now we've got this beautiful Atwood research facility. And my lab is just about running at full capacity now as far as the equipment and everything being ready to roll. So we're really going to start ramping up some of these analyses in the very near future with looking at the microbial community. We're also looking at nitrogen and phosphorus in groundwater. Anytime you have animals on the landscape, they're going to be pooping and peeing, right? And so people are often wondering, do those excrements have negative impacts, or are we just getting the positive impacts from the nutrient input, right? So we're looking at how these nutrients are moving through the soil and down into the groundwater. We're also interested in, obviously this is production. How does this affect our crop yields? And, some of the other things we are concerned about is, in organic, weeds are one of the biggest things we deal with. So will this help with suppressing weeds? What we're looking at is essentially a 5-year crop rotation. We have 3 years of animals on pasture. That pasture consists of alfalfa, clover, orchard grass, perennial ryegrass, brome grass, Fistolium, bird's foot trefoil. Tony, who is sitting here in the front and center, helped me design this rotation when he was working here at KSU, and he and I came up with this mix, and it seems to be working all right. We're trying to really be careful with how many animals we put on the landscape. We're using about 600 pounds of animals per plot because we don't want to overgraze. We really just want to get those animals out there for 3 or 4 days and let them graze and then move them on to the next plot, right? So we don't overgraze, we don't chew that grass down to the very soil surface. We also have in this 5-year rotation 2 years of organic grain crops. This is just an organic corn soybean rotation, right? And so we've got controls that we're looking at to monitor how our rotation is comparing against sort of a continuous operation. And the controls we're using are continuous corn and soybean, where we're growing corn and soybean every year, or continuous pasture, where we are just leaving it undisturbed in pasture, and we mow it occasionally, but we don't run animals on this, so we want to be able to sort of see what the impact of animals is on the landscape. It's kind of what it looks like out in the field. If you've been out in our field, today's not a good day to go out in the field. We're not going to go look at these in person because of the weather, but in the past we have had people down at the plots and shown you all these research plots where we've got basically 7 plots lined up next to each other. And we've got all of our treatments lined up in each plot every year, and then we replicate that 4 times, and so we can really start to get a picture of what's going on in this rotation on our farm. Like I said, we're measuring water quality. So we're looking at nitrogen and phosphorus in the groundwater. Nat Colton, who's sitting over here to my left, is actually doing this work, collecting water from the subsoil, and we're analyzing nitrogen and phosphorus in that subsoil about 1 meter deep. This is what it looks like in the field. You know, these are some goats out on the plot. You can see they've grazed down. They've got a hay wagon in the field for shade. They like to climb up on that thing, so we put a tarp on it to preserve the wood. And then you can see right next to this, we've got sort of an ungrazed plot. The goats will be moving to that one in the very near future, probably in a day or so. You can see they've grazed that current plot down pretty good. In the background, you see our corn treatment. This is just a side-by-side, a plot that's being grazed by the goats versus a plot that they'll probably move into within a day or two. They're grazing on a pasture, so it's a pasture mix with about 6, 7 different plants. So you know, we could bring them in for cover crop, but they, you know, right now we have not been grazing them on the cover crops. We prefer to terminate our cover crops and let all that biomass turn into organic matter. It's a good question. Actually, the good question kind of sidetracked me there, and now I'm going too fast, and I need to go backwards. And I'm still going forwards. Oh, no. Clicker. Come on, clicker. Here we go. Got it. I wanted to point out, you can see the difference, right? This is a 2 plots side by side where we've grazed, and actually the plot to the right is our check plot, where we never put animals on it. But you can see the comparison. The check plot just has the pasture mix. We do occasionally mow it, but it never gets animals. And then the plot to the left is a plot where the goats have recently grazed and moved on. So they do have, they clear a plot out pretty quickly. Blake Van Sanford is sitting over here, and he can tell you he probably moves them, what, every 2-3 days? Yeah. 2.5. This is another just side-by-side comparison. And then you can see, you know, these guys are leaving stuff out there behind them, right? There's a nice pile of goat dung that's going to turn into organic matter and nutrients for my subsequent crops. And the whole idea, I should point out before I get into looking at some of this data, is that we want to really undo the damage that we're doing during that cropping cycle, right? If we're coming in and tilling up the field to do the corn, soybean 2-year phase of the cycle, we know that tillage has taken out organic matter, and that's the key to soil health in our system. And so we want to come back in after that and have these 3 years of goats on pasture to build that soil organic matter back up, build our nutrient cycling process back up. We know from examining the data that nitrate and phosphorus is behaving differently in the different treatments. What we're basically seeing is that where we're growing crops, we are losing more nitrate down through the soil profile to about a 1 meter depth. And just quickly to look at this figure, the P1 and PP lines represent pasture. So P1 is 1 year of pasture, PP is a perennial pasture. Whereas CNP is a cropped plot, CS1 is another crop plot, and CS2 is a crop plot, right? So all 3 of those cropped plots are where you're seeing higher nitrate leaching, nitrate moving down through the groundwater, dirt through the soil in the groundwater. So we saw this the first year we collected data on it in 2018. Similar effect in 2019, and I should just point out that CNP crop treatment is the one that's constantly in continuous cropping compared to the other 2, which are part of the 5-year rotation, right? So that's our cropping check plot. We expect the most soil degradation in those plots. We expect to see nitrate leaching in those plots. But our pasture, if you look at it, you know, we're not losing a whole lot of nitrate below those pasture plots. Those are the 3 bottom lines here. They represent pasture, whereas the 3 top lines are cropping treatments. The effect with phosphorus is a little different. Our pasture plots seem to be losing a little more phosphorus. I should point out that none of this is really at the level of what we would consider pollution. So this system seems to be working pretty well. So this is phosphorus in 2018, and we're seeing more phosphorus moving through the soil profile into the groundwater underneath our pasture plots. Similar effect in 2019. Again, the phosphorus seems to be moving through more rapidly. And we're finally starting to see soil carbon, right? Soil carbon, again, is this key to soil health. The first 3 years of it, we collected data, we did not see any real difference between the treatments in soil carbon, but Blake Van Sanford conducted this research as part of his master's thesis. He did a great job on that. He defended it last fall. I'm proud of the work that he did. And what came out of his work is that last year, we actually started to see some differences in the more labile soil carbon, which is this carbon that responds more quickly to management practices and is indicative of some of the microbial processes that are going on. So we did see that in our pasture plots in general, you know, these are really the three bars here on the far left of the graph represent 2, 3, and continuous pasture, 2 years, 3 years, and continuous pasture. And you're seeing significantly higher labile carbon that we measure with potassium permanganate oxidation. So this kind of tells us that the pasture is doing its job. It's building that soil organic matter. So just a quick recap, and I'm probably running out of time here, so I need to maybe pick it up. We are seeing more nitrogen under our crop plots. We're seeing more phosphorus under our pasture plots. I think the nitrogen is moving down underneath our crop plots because we're tilling and we're mineralizing that organic matter, and as that organic matter breaks down, it's releasing nitrogen and it's moving down through the soil profile and making its way down to our sampler at a meter depth. It may also have to do with the fact that we are fertilizing these plots a little bit. We're putting about 75 pounds of nitrogen on per acre with Nature Safe, which is OMRI approved, organic approved fertilizer. The pasture, you know, I think what's going on there is, since we're not disturbing the soil, we have more channels and macropores, you know, earthworm channels and root channels developing at the surface, allowing that water to move from the surface down to the subsoil water more readily. And we know from soil testing that we have high phosphorus inherently in these soils. And so I think what's happening is that phosphorus is moving to those lower depths. Again, it's not to the level of what we'd consider pollution, but it is good to know that this can happen. I think what's happening in the cropped plots is that by disturbing the soil surface, we're disrupting some of those pores, and so the phosphorus is not able to move down as readily. The animals don't really seem to be having an impact. So when we compare them with our no animal check plots, the levels of nitrogen and phosphorus really aren't different. So that's good. It means our animals aren't contributing to pollution. It does seem like the pasture is doing its job. It's building the carbon that we want and improving that soil health. And so this is an ongoing experiment. We've actually done 4 years of the experiment. This year is our 5th year. I'm excited to get the full 5 years of the cycle in, and we'll report back to you on it sometime next year. I want to shift gears. So one of the things that I'm doing in organic program is extension and outreach work, right? So this was the research that we are doing here on the farm. You know, an issue that we are dealing with in organic is a lack of human diversity. Organic tends to be an operation that really caters to urban, middle-class, white consumers. And we don't have a lot of diversity in the ranks of producers. And I know this from looking at the records that we have in the Organic Integrity Database and speaking with colleagues at KDA and Organic Association of Kentucky, who are both here going to speak today, and the International Organization for International Organic Inspectors Association is also aware of this issue. And so this is important. Black farmers are losing their land faster than white farmers. They're selling off their land. They're having to, you know, make changes in what they're doing. And the people that they're working with, the so-called gatekeepers in organic, don't look like them, right? And so this is an issue that we're really going to try to address over the next couple of years. We really want to start figuring out what the barriers are to minority participation in organic agriculture. We're going to be surveying our stakeholders, and if you're wanting to be part of a survey on this issue, please contact me, because I'm going to need help getting this information. I'm learning as I go as an ally, but I really, I'm going to need our stakeholders to reach out to me and help me get this information. When we have this information, we are going to do some outreach and workshops to try and report back on what these barriers are. And we're going to talk about organic production and organic career opportunities with our stakeholders. One of the opportunities that we're going to talk about is the need for inspectors and certification reviewers. Very few minorities are conducting that kind of work. So these are the gatekeepers, right? Again, if you're trying to get into organic, this might be a barrier to your participation. Marcus Bernard is going to talk more about this effort later on today, so I'm not going to say too much more about it, but I really encourage you, if you are interested in this kind of work, it's important work and we need to really push it forward, please reach out to me because we want to work with you on it. And that's all I got. Do I have time for questions, or am I out of time? Does this mean out of time? I have time. Do I have any questions? Yeah, Grant? Yes. Yes. So, we have seen it in other systems. Obviously it depends on a farm's operations. It depends on the soil. Every situation could potentially be different, right? But we want to get an idea of what's going on under our research plots. Do we have nitrate leaching that's problematic? Do we have phosphorus levels that are problematic? We know our soil phosphorus levels are high, so we are getting some phosphorus. Normally you don't even expect phosphorus leaching, but because we have saturated soils in terms of phosphorus, we are seeing some. So, other questions? Yes, sir. That is a question that, so we have a great arrangement with Dr. Andrews, who is in charge of our goat herd here, and I'm not 100% sure what feed. I think they do have supplemental feed, but I'm not sure what he's using. And so if you email me, I can reach out to Dr. Andrews and get back to him. Blake, do you know that answer? Does he feed supplemental? And while we're on the subject, I should point out that these goats are not certified organic goats. Now, you might wonder, well, how do you run them on certified organic land? This is A-OK as far as the language of the National Organic Program and the standards. You can apply non-organic animal manure, and you can run non-organic animals on your plots. Personally, since I know that animals that are given medications could potentially be excreting those medications in the urine or feces, I have some questions, about, this might be a gray area we need to look at. But currently, you can use non-organic animals on organic land, and you do not run the risk of losing your organic certification. Yes, sir. Oh, my, the pasture mix. So we worked very closely when Tony was working with me here at KSU. If there's anything wrong with it, it's his fault. But Tony and I worked very closely with Welter's Seed and Honey out of Iowa, and they talked with me several times over the phone. And between Tony and Welter's, I got really good information on putting this pasture mix together. And so, it's got a mix of legumes in it. It's got some deep-rooted forbs in it. It's got some grasses. So we're trying to get, warm season, cool season production, deep roots, shallow roots, legumes, all of it is kind of mixed in there. Other questions, comments, thoughts? All right. Well, if that is all y'all have for me, I'm excited that you're here again. Thank you for coming to Third Thursday. And I'm going to go ahead and get my agenda just to make sure I'm not bringing up the wrong speaker next. But our next speaker is from Kentucky Department of Agriculture. I will say they are a great partner to work with in the organic space here in Kentucky. And having been in the program here at KSU for 5 years, I work a lot over the years with people representing KDA. Today we have Abigail George, and she is going to come up and give us a little bit of an introduction about KDA's organic certification program. Thanks, Abigail.
Good morning, everybody. So on the agenda, it has myself and Ryan Burnett on the agenda. Unfortunately, Ryan is not able to be with us this morning. But I am Abigail George. I have been with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture for about 8, almost 9 months now. I am certified to inspect crops, livestock, and processing, so I'm certified in all 3 scopes. And I'm got a little bit of experience with the certifier side of things as well. So one question that a lot of producers have is why bother with doing certified organic? So with your certificate, you get a lot of options on the market. So you can actually sell your products at a higher premium, and obviously that depends on the market of your area and the scope of which you're producing. But you can get premiums on the crops level with row crops as well as produce and herbs and wild crop and that sort of thing. With livestock, you can get a premium on your milk if you're a dairy operation, with your eggs, your meat products. Those will all bring a higher premium as opposed to conventional products. And with processing and handling, we've got processors that do CBD products, livestock feed, teas. So any of these products do bring a premium. And we've got probably a little over a dozen processors in addition to our farms. So the organic produce market is expected to grow anywhere from 5 to 10% in 2022. We did see also a huge amount of growth in 2020, and we're already starting to see a lot of new participants, at least with KDA, for the 2022 certification year. The organic program is a federally regulated program, unlike natural or naturally grown. Those are not regulated terms, but the term organic is. And you can actually find the rule at the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 205, and that's available online as well. And it is a 100% voluntary program. So here's just an example of the numbers. So on the left, you'll see a map of 2019 numbers for fresh vegetable sales and the sales are in the thousands of dollars. So Kentucky is not on that map yet, but we do have a pretty robust organic market. The last number that I saw was that Kentucky has about 230 certified organic farms. Not just certified through the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, but through other certifiers as well. And on the right, you will see just a total amount of growth from 2011 to 2020, and you'll see that on an average, there's an increase in growth in the organic market. And that isn't just produce, it's all scopes. So produce or crops, livestock, and processing. So who needs to be certified organic? So if you make less than $5,000 in organic sales of your organic products, then you do qualify for being exempt. So if you're raising hay and you want to certify the land, but you're feeding the hay to your own animals, then there's no need for you to get certified. You can register as exempt with the KDA. If you're new and you have a plan, you know exactly what you want to do, you've already have customers lined up and contracts with your CSA or restaurant sales, then we do recommend that you go ahead and apply to the program. And then, you know, if things end up not working out the way that you want, or you decide that large scale market just isn't for you, you can always go back and surrender your certificate and register as exempt if that's what you feel that suits your needs the best. So currently we certify about 222 farms and businesses in the state. About 107 of those grow crops exclusively, and about 83 of those are crops and livestock. And like I said earlier, we do have about a little over a dozen processors as well. So there is a minimum requirement for crops. The land has to be managed organically for at least 3 years. Now this is called the transition period, and actually Oak has transition coaches that can help you with transitioning your land, help you get your records in order, and help you do paperwork and that sort of thing. And I'm sure that Brooke will discuss more of that whenever she comes up to talk. But Oak is a great resource for whether you're certified or not, or you're looking to get certified. Oak is a great resource to have for organics. Now there is a big 3 rule, and it is that you cannot use biosludge, so human waste products. You cannot use irradiation, and you cannot use GMOs. So those are the big 3 rules that will automatically kick you out of the opportunity to be organic. Any fertilizers that are not listed on the national list of synthetic substances that are allowed for use in organic crop production cannot be used. So, and whenever you apply, you would submit your list of proposed inputs, and we would go through that and make sure that they're all allowed or listed or restricted. And if it's a product that we're not familiar with, we will submit that to a product reviewer that will get all of the information that they can find on the product and will determine whether or not it's allowed, restricted, or prohibited. There's also a rule about burning crop residues. So you can only burn your crop residues for disease management or to stimulate seed germination. Those are the only circumstances in which you're allowed to burn. And that's also something that you would want to run by your certifier and make sure that they're aware of that. And that would be in your organic system plan. So on the next slide, I'll talk a little bit more about the certified organic seeds. But as far as records go, we recommend that if you go out into your fields or your greenhouse or your high tunnel to do anything, write it down. And write it all down in the same place so that it's all there and it's all available to be audited. So this is a draft of our seed policy that we're going to put out hopefully very soon. It's got the rule listed, which is 7 CFR 205-204A is the first section of the rule. And so you're not allowed to just use whatever seed it is that you can find. So we want to encourage our producers to use certified organic seed. And you can find those at Johnny's, Welter Seed. There are I know High Mowing has quite a large variety of organic seed as well, if you're looking to do produce. So one of the first things that you want to do is determine commercial availability. So the KDA requires that you search at least 3 organic seed providers looking for the variety of seed that you want in organic. If those 3 organic seed providers don't have what you're looking for that meet your needs, then you can document that and justify why the untreated conventional seed meets your needs as opposed to the organic variety. And an important note is that cost of seed is not grounds to use conventional untreated seed, because it is commercially available in the amount that you need and the variety that you need organically. It just comes at a premium, so it is more expensive than conventional seed. So how to get certified? It can be quite a process. Like I mentioned earlier, contacting Oak and setting up a meeting with a transition trainer is encouraged, especially if you're new to production. They will help you with your paperwork and records and all of that. And then step 2 is selecting a certifier. So the KDA is the only public certifier in the state. There are a large variety of private certifiers as well, such as Pennsylvania Certified Organic, Oregon Tilth, OFA, and those are all private certifiers. So generally speaking, all certifiers require the same information, but different certifiers sometimes have different policies on different topics, so that would be could be a significant difference. So once you select your certifier, then you'll complete an application and an organic system plan and submit that to your certifier. And you want to make sure that you complete every question to the best of your ability. And if you have questions about your paperwork, you're more than welcome to give KDA or whoever your chosen certifier is, and they should be able to give you the information that you need to be able to complete that paperwork. My phone line is always open to questions. So once the certifier receives your paperwork and it is complete enough that we can send it to first review, we'll send it to first review, and if the first reviewer has any questions, then we'll send out a letter, we'll give you a call and get into contact with you and collect that information. And then once that process is complete, then an inspector will reach out and get an inspection scheduled. And once that is complete, a final review will be conducted. Any issues that pop up during the inspection will be discussed in the final review. And then after the final review, we'll have the certification decision. And the certification decision can either be that an adverse action is needed, another letter is required to collect more information on a topic, or, you know, this person is good to go, we'll issue their first certificate, put them in the organic integrity database, and your certificate does not expire or go bad on you unless you surrender or it's revoked. So what can draw out the process of certification is incomplete application materials, adverse actions such as requests for information and non-compliances, and the time of the application. So if you apply in January or February as opposed to July or August, we have a lot more wiggle room to work with you at the beginning of the year as opposed to the end of the year. It's not impossible if you were to apply in July or August. It just kind of puts a time crunch on the office because these things do take time, especially for a new applicant. So if you're new and you want to get certified through the KDA, I do encourage you to get your paperwork submitted with us. And if you're a renewal, then our deadline is March 1st of every year for the crops and livestock. So these are some resources that were used throughout the PowerPoint and are publicly available online. So I'm sure that Brooke will talk about this as well, but the Oak just had their first virtual conference of the year at the end of January, but they've got 2 more dates set up for in-person conferences. So the March one is actually the 17th through the 18th, but those are those numbers for that. And this is the contact information for myself and our program manager, Shelby Wheeler. I will also be here all day today if you guys want to come over and say hi or ask questions or anything like that. But if you guys want to take a picture of this slide, you're more than welcome to do so. Okay. Do I have time for questions? Okay. Does anybody have any questions? No? Yeah, you can keep your seed, but we want you to keep record of like where that seed originated and like the process of you maintaining your seed. But that's a practice that we're fine with. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, I think next is, yes.
We always have a lot of farmers asking about how long does the process take, once they submit paperwork, particularly they're thinking about when can they market their crops as certified organic. Can you talk a little bit about that timeline, but also what farmers should anticipate and when they can market as certified organic?
Yeah, so a new applicant can take anywhere from 6 to 12 months, which is a timeline that we're working on as an office, is to get a certificate issued as quickly as possible once we get that initial intake of the file. But if there are any issues raised or questions, that does tend to draw out the process. So really the important thing that I've noticed in the office is making sure that the application materials are complete. That cuts down on a lot of time.
It's for 40. Oh, sorry, Sean. I've been selling at farmers markets for 43 years. If you're transitioning to organic, put a big sign on the edge of your tent, right? Transitioning to, and make the word organic much bigger. You will get more sales. I have not noticed that very many people, even in the Lexington area, do get a higher price.
Mm-hmm.
How does the cost of certifying through the Department of Agriculture compare to the cost of certifying through other certification entities?
Right. The KDA base fee is $250 per scope. So if you're wanting to do, say, crops and livestock, so the crops would be $250. The second scope is an additional $175 fee. So it would be it would be over $300. So private certifiers are usually quite a bit more. The reason that KDA's fees are set up the way that they are is because it's written into policy, as opposed to a private certifier that doesn't necessarily have to worry about that sort of thing. So we're one of the cheapest certifiers in the state. I'm not sure what the private certifiers like PCO's fees are.
Related to pricing, can you talk a little bit about the federal cost share program and the opportunity there for reimbursement of part of that fee that farmers have access to?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, the fee is a base $250. Like Brooke mentioned, we do have a cost share program that would reimburse you up to 50% of that cost. So, and on your application, there is a question about whether or not you would like to participate in the KDA cost share. There's also an option for the FSA cost share. And then you can also opt out if that's what works best for you. So that is definitely an option. Thank you for bringing that up, Brooke.
What does the process look like when you're becoming, after you've become certified organic, what's the process each year after that?
So it kind of depends on what the office is doing. So for 2022, if you're new, we want you to submit all of the paperwork. But if you're a renewal, there are only like 6 or 7 pages that we're wanting to get back unless there are updates. So we're just taking update paperwork currently. And that can change, every few years we take in everybody's stuff just to keep paperwork as minimal as possible to keep everybody updated about their operation. Any other questions? Okay. I think next we've got Ashley Smith, the co-founder of Black Soil Kentucky, speaking. Okay. Okay.
Morning, Kentucky State University. I'm so glad to be with you today. Thank you, Dr. Lucas, for the opportunity to join virtually. I am remiss and regret not having the chance to be at the research farm in person, one of my favorite places. If we're not familiar with each other, my name is Ashley C. Smith. I'm one of the co-founders and I serve as the COO of Black Soil. And I'm at the very robust and busy Gray Line station located in the north side of Lexington. If you've not had a chance to make your way down here, I highly encourage you to check out so many incredible locally owned businesses right here in the heart of Lexington's north side. So to kick us off, I want to just give an overview of who we are, what we do, what we've done for the past 5 years in relation to the larger American history and story of agriculture and how it really plays a part here in the state of Kentucky. And when we conclude our time today, we'll be looking to the future. Where do we go from here? How do we take everything that we're learning today and put it into action? Here on our cover page of our presentation, we see Chef Anitra Polk in her seed to shelf market garden that Black Soil started in 2020. You can now find Chef Anitra Polk at UK Dining Services in the 90, serving up plant-based vegan options sourced by Kentucky farmers. She's actually expanded her operation to Morehead State University, as well as the University of Louisville. So we congratulate her for being one of the first Black women culinary artists to break this barrier. So you see here, the recipe really evokes the illustration of the farmers, chefs, and makers that we work with across the state. Much like a recipe in your grandma's kitchen, it calls for many ingredients, a layer of different expertise, flavor profiles, and what we bring to the table is what we have come to know as the recipe, this collective of Black farmers, chefs, and makers from across the state and the region. We work through a shared vision. As a lifelong Kentuckian, a lifelong resident and native of Lexington, Kentucky, I am committed to my state and seeing us strive towards a mission of reconnecting not only Black Kentuckians to their heritage and legacy in agriculture, but we're powered by the focus that much like everyone sitting in this room or sharing the viewing space through YouTube, we want to see a bright future where all Kentuckians across the Commonwealth can enjoy local food all year long. And so, who is Black Soil, Our Better Nature, and now known as Black Soil Kentucky? In August of 2017, we were a co-founded organization. Farmer Brown, the MC, Trevor Claiborne. He is a proud alumni of Kentucky State University and currently works there at the institution within the College of Ag as an extension assistant. Myself, I am the daughter and granddaughter of Kentucky State alumni. My grandmother graduating from the university in 1946 and my mother graduating in 1976. So I came up under the understanding of the heritage and legacy of HBCUs, the role they play within the Black farming community. So I serve as the Chief Operating Officer. I've owned the business since May of 2018, and I operate the day-to-day operations. So that looks like offering presentations, working in fulfilling orders, as well as the long-term goals and visions of the business. And to the right here, this is probably the last time they've sat still for a picture, our little pudgies, the second generation of Black soil, Caroline and Trevor Jr. So when we think about the development of American agriculture as it is, we would be remiss if we separated out the contributions, innovations, the toil, the brutality, the lived experiences of African Americans through chattel slavery, the institution, which at one point in time was a global institution. The transatlantic slave trade spread Africans throughout the world, or you'll now hear it referred to as the African diaspora, hitting the shores of what would become the Americas starting in 1526 and then again in 1619, enslaved Africans arriving through the Spanish conquistadors and the early settlers. As you progress on in understanding, the colonies were heavily dependent, that economy was critically dependent upon that free forced labor of enslaved African Americans, toiling the rice field, sugar cane. But here specifically in Kentucky, where slavery was present in all 120 counties, you find hemp, tobacco, equine, and distilling being the main industries that the enslaved African Americans were at best to describe the experts of the soil. And as you progress on through emancipation, the promise of Reconstruction truly looked like the newly freed and formerly enslaved teaching the white European immigrants as well as Americans throughout the Deep South, trying to recover from that collapsed economy, how to farm and tend to their land. Thus, you see the development of land grant institutions where these individuals were granted land and they were then taught by those formerly enslaved African Americans. You've heard of the historic figures, George Washington Carver, Booker T. Washington, Tuskegee University, these individuals traveling, the early onset and development of what has become modern day extension. And then looking at segregation. So we know at the turn of the century, post-Civil War, that African Americans farmed at about 15% compared to today's numbers of only 2% nationally, farming at around 15 million acres, now nationally less than 1 million. And as you see the progression of social change and civil rights, the decline of Black land ownership continued to just plummet. Though we were gaining rights socially, we were truly losing the foundation of true American freedom that has been based in the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights. Our ability to have the right to vote was predicated upon your gender, your race, and your possession of land. So as African Americans continue to lose this ownership of land, they found themselves in another form of chattel slavery in which sharecropping and tenant farming became the norm that carried us through those 89 plus years of segregation, where millions of African Americans left the Deep South, which was mainly the portion of the United States where these individuals were concentrated. Within those 89 years of segregation, Jim Crow, Black codes, all of those brutal laws and policies that enabled the continuation of social and financial apartheid for these Americans. So millions left the American South, leaving our rural communities as skeletons. They moved more into urban metropolitans, New York, Detroit, the Rust Belt of Ohio, Pennsylvania, working in factories out west, as well as working in manufacturing and factories. And as we continue today in 2022, there is still so much in our American day-to-day life and culture that we're working against in being able to provide a more robust access to all Americans to the ag industry. And so you're probably wondering, how in the world does someone who worked at the Lyric Theater doing arts and culture, grant writing, end up working in agriculture? Well, I'll tell you, in 2017, I was recruited to work at a nonprofit land use advocacy organization by the name of Fayette Alliance, where I learned to advocate not only for myself, but for the hidden in plain sight individuals located throughout Lexington, Fayette County, within our historic hamlets known as Freedman Towns, Uttertown, Cadentown, those individuals who held onto land. You'll hear a little bit more about this incredible individualized journey later on this afternoon through the Seize the Moment presentation offered by Coleman Crest Farm owner and operator Jim Coleman. And so I was captivated by the absence of who I knew set the tone, the creativity, the innovations, the ability to develop the mechanisms that now carry modern agriculture here in the United States. And so from there, I wanted to create a vehicle of change that met people exactly where they were. So partnered with our co-founder, Trevor, in those early days, it looked like creating on-site farm education and engagement. We partnered with the Kentucky State University Extension agents, local Kentucky Black farmers who invited us onto their farm and allowed us to not only take a tour of their farm, but we cultivated a farm to table experience where we sourced farm product from that operation. So we started that process and pilot on Barber's farm in Hart County, and actually had the chance to meet Anwar Barber, one of the 4 of the 7 Barber siblings who have returned to farming at a Third Thursday thing. And we were able to be connected and bring folks from Louisville and Lexington onto these farms to learn more about not only the history of the operation, the day-to-day needs of the farm, but also how they as consumers could be engaged. And during the off season, we brought the rural-based farmer like Travis Cleaver from Cleve Family Market up to Lexington, where they were then able to have a direct audience and explain what their CSA program is, what it entails, how people can then sign up. And we practiced that for the first 3 years of our business. And in the very beginning, when I was conducting research on Black soil, I reached out to the Kentucky Department of Agriculture and I asked, what statistics do you have on Black farmers here in the state of Kentucky? They said, at this time, we don't have any information. And they recommended us to reach out to Kentucky State University. When I went to Kentucky State University, I'll never forget the echoes of laughter that I received in pitching this concept of wanting to aid in creating more market share for Kentucky Black farmers. It was hilarious. But now 5 years later, we are able to have the last laugh because we've been able to move the needle in such a tremendous way. Though we know we're up against many barriers and statistics, we based our research on the USDA farm census, where we were able to pull out some of these extremely eye-opening data points and numbers. And I really want to concentrate us on this slide within the bottom half. So not only are African Americans losing land at an alarming rate, 30,000 acres per year. Food insecurity is raging. And as we know, COVID-19 has just continued to exacerbate these statistics. We see here in the state of Kentucky, out of 77,000 overall farm producers, less than 450 are Black landowners. We also know that if Mother Nature can't see who puts the seed in the ground, then why do Black farms average 31% less in the average market value of their products being sold? And the biggest one is this last point here. Black farm products in the state of Kentucky in 2017, according to the USDA Farm Census, were valued at a little over $10 million compared to their white counterparts, and those product valuations at over $5 billion. So as a sociologist, I laid my hat there because behind those statistics, there are people and systems and infrastructure or lack thereof that cause that extreme disparity. 10 million compared to 5 billion. Again, if Mother Nature can't see who puts the seed in the ground, then why do we have such enormous disparities in agriculture? So we decided to do something about it. First and foremost, being a native of Kentucky and a Black Kentuckian, I'm very familiar with the lived experience of being forgotten, overlooked, and not taken into consideration in a national conversation, particularly around agriculture and local food systems. Again, based on the research, we were diligent in seeking out existing organizations doing this type of work here in the Commonwealth. We found none. They were primarily concentrated below or above Kentucky. Kentucky was oftentimes left out of the Black ag and farming conversations. Based again on our understanding of the historic interpretation of agriculture, Kentucky was a booming ag producer during enslavement. Hemp, tobacco, equine, and distilling. The master distillers serving on plantations were enslaved men. Equine and horse racing. The first 13 out of 15 Kentucky Derby winning jockeys were enslaved Kentuckians, young teens actually, who raced here in Lexington's East End, developing that industry into a $1 billion, if not trillion-dollar industry. Tobacco, as well as hemp. Based on the research, you see a lot of second generation post-Civil War engagement with hemp and tobacco. But during the onset of enslavement and during post-Civil War sharecropping and tenant farming, hemp was unfortunately known as the N-word crop because of according to the research and studies that we have conducted, it showcases the extreme and intimate nature and knowledge that African Americans had of hemp. It was a dirty, messy, backbreaking process. And if you ever attend the Traces Slavery to Ashland tour at Henry Clay Estate here in Lexington, we have developed that award-winning self-guided tour, the only one here in the state dedicated to enslavement, that really focuses on how the enslaved, not Henry Clay, laid the foundation for that industry. So again, we started in August of 2017 in Hart County, and we focus on being a solution. We say that we want to build up that infrastructure. So travel at the very beginning of the first 3 years of this work, agritourism, was a vehicle again to break down the barriers. So if you have folks who are 2 to 3, if not 4 generations removed from farming and agriculture, how can they then see themselves in an industry that one can be unwelcoming or hostile, or that can be so hard to navigate because of the many barriers that oftentimes our gatekeepers at organizations create? So we focused on improving the quality of life of Kentucky's African American community. And we're very proud of the stance and the work that we have been able to accomplish. Farmers, culinary artists, and makers make up the network in which we serve. The mission of Black Soil is to reconnect Black Kentuckians to their heritage and legacy in agriculture. Our vision is to take that previous stat that showcases that Black farm product valuation at a mere 10 million compared to the white counterpart product valuation at over 5 billion, and work in market and procurement opportunities. So in the beginning, we focused on agritourism. It was fun, it was innocent. We didn't feel like a challenge to anyone. And then we continued moving on as the pandemic raged. We shifted our focus into business to business and business to consumer. Our business to business focusing on wholesaling locally owned farm-to-table restaurants and institutions, and our business to consumer focused on developing our weekly farm share CSA model. But before that these were the core services that we offered. And mainly I want to highlight that historic interpretation of agriculture, because based on the historic documents, again, we're utilizing the documents of those we prop up in the history books. We utilize their words, we utilize their numbers, their ledgers, their historic documents, their deeds, where they showcase they owned people, where they valued created the valuations and the layered valuations of what those people were purchased for, sold for, held for. You'll find hemp breaking ledgers at Ashland, the Henry Clay estate, that showcased in February 13th of 1852, individuals were breaking hemp, and they had a quota. And so to showcase the absence, the 25-year absence of Henry Clay when he lived in Washington, D.C., leading the nation, who was cultivating this industry, who was cultivating the equine industry. And so we worked with national public historic houses in creating these relationships to further tell these stories. And so our success has been deeply rooted in partnership. So as we've navigated our now 3-year pandemic pivot since 2020, it's been an incredible journey to include even more partners in really amplifying our mission and our vision. I had the opportunity last week to speak to our partners from Farm Credit Mid-America. They have pledged 4 years of commitment, not only a financial donation to Black Soil in the amount of $200,000, but they're also committed to raising up new, young, and beginning farmers across our urban and rural communities by providing them with grants to then go to Grow Appalachia and work with Kayla and her team in developing and constructing high tunnels on their farms, which will then allow them to increase not only their productivity, but extend out their growing season and receive that technical assistance support from our friends over at the Sustainable Agriculture Department at the University of Kentucky. Ag Credit, Central Kentucky Ag Credit, Fayette Alliance, Soil Conservation Districts of Kentucky have all been grantors and supporters. And we're extremely excited to be Kentucky proud and work closely with the Commissioner and Kentucky Department of Agriculture and several of their initiatives and marketing programs. Each of these organizations are also supporting the Kentucky Black Farmer Conference that Black Soil, in partnership with Community Farm Alliance, will present March 4th, 5th, and 6th in Lexington, with an effort to not only expose young people who are interested in farming to the existing mentors around them by showcasing the representation lived out, but we also want to connect these producers, farmers, and growers with the opportunity to take their right next step. So in 2021, it's an incredible opportunity for us to be on the call speaking about organic things around the state. We did a multi-layered survey. We did a show of hands and a written survey where we asked individuals if they were interested in becoming certified organic. At that time, we had no interest, though we had a third needs assessment conducted by Community Farm Alliance that showcased, though there was not an interest to take the next step and become certified organic, 85% of those producers were using practices that align with the techniques and the methodologies of growing in an organic fashion. So that disconnect, that's the piece that still, even after a year later, we're working to troubleshoot. So we're leaning deeply into the partnership with Kentucky State and the new grant that they've received through the leadership of Dr. Lucas and Dr. Bernard to come to this conference and really help jumpstart what is the barrier? What is the problem? Is it a local organization level? Is it a gatekeeping level? You know, we oftentimes do receive feedback from people's interactions with your organizations. And so oftentimes we're privy to their experiences, whether good, bad, or ugly, and how to navigate around those and work to improve. So I think that's really the step that we talk about and where do we go from here. So, you know, we oftentimes work with institutions, and this is just an example of how we've worked with the University of Kentucky since 2018. I would love one day to slide for Kentucky State University, but at this time we're not there. So we again have worked in the classroom, we've worked on grants, we've worked in public facing community engagement events, as well as completing an entrepreneurship boot camp with the business and economics school there. So, you know, we are a multi-farm aggregated CSA program. The one farm, one share, one family that unfortunately doesn't mesh with the vision of the cooperative economics and shared responsibility that we cultivate within our network. So we have a lead farmer here. You're most likely familiar with this gentleman. He is no stranger to Kentucky State University, serving as the 2021 Small Farmer of the Year, based in Hart and LaRue County. This diversified farm operation is a multi-generational farm led by Travis Cleaver. Secondly, we work with the Thomas family out of Taylor County. Both Mackenzie and Chris are ag educators in their local school districts, and they also source our local meat as well as our farm fresh eggs. And we love supporting new and beginning farmers. This is just a small glimpse of our active farmers in this season's CSA program. We have individuals that we will activate for marketing, promotion, media appearances, on-site and on-farm event, farm to table series, so on and so forth. Leticia Marshall is a Shively based producer. She lives in Louisville, and she also is the manager and founder of the Shively Farmers and Artisan Market. And so again, if Mother Nature can't see who puts the seed in the ground, then why do we have such enormous disparities in agriculture? And so again, diversity is needed not only socially, but it is critical to the ag industry. So again, our path to our target markets, we start with our Kentucky Black-owned farms. We then bring those individual products to our fulfillment center located here in Lexington's North Side. From there, we cultivate those products into a farmer's market, our CSA program. Individual consumers or restaurants can purchase wholesale. And then we also conduct family style ready to bake meals that are EBT, SNAP accepted. Our target markets are households, local restaurants, institutions, caregivers, working with the most vulnerable. So working with managed care organizations such as WellCare, United Healthcare, Aetna Better Healthcare of Kentucky have allowed us to support some of our most vulnerable community members by connecting them directly to Kentucky fresh seasonal produce. Okay, so again, connecting the producers to institutions such as yourself, organizations such as yourself, and helping them identify grant opportunities, as well as, excuse me, before they put that seed into the soil, where is that product going to end up? And then working diligently to make consumers and buyers, retailers aware of those products and cultivating them, marketing them in fun and unique ways. Again, we're across the state of Kentucky. We started in Hart and have conducted farm tours in Bourbon, LaRue, Lincoln, Wayne, Logan. And we are continuing to push forth in developing even more farmers, and we hope to see everyone at the Kentucky Black Farmer Conference. So if you want to get in touch with me, here's the best way to do that. Dr. Lucas, I will be available to stay on the call for any questions that we might have.
You know, if we don't live this experience, we probably don't think about it as often as we should. And so people who are committed to equity in agriculture really need to have a good understanding of the things that you're bringing to the table. So I really appreciate you bringing this information to our workshop today. Do we have any questions for Ashley? I think, have we lost Ashley, or is she still online? I think we need to go to the next speaker on the agenda, and that is Dr. Marcus Bernard. Is Marcus here with us right now? All right. I think we may bring Marcus in after lunch, and we'll take a little break here for a couple minutes. Apparently, our agenda shuffled just a little bit. So, without further ado, let's take a little break, and I will be back up here to reconvene us here after a short break.